Hello, this is Dr. Marian Diaz, the Director of Thriving in Ministry at Catholic Theological Union. In today's vlog, I want to expand upon the question that I raised in my blog, the first blog of the Inhale Exhale series a few months ago. And that's really trying to take a serious and deep look at this question of how do we even continue to use the word thrive today, um, given all the challenges that we are facing and the challenges that we have faced in the United States, especially moving into this new year and going through a transition of power and experiences of violent revolt at our capital. So in the blog, I talked about just allowing. And allowing is not passive, but allowing is something that gives you the space to see what is, and then to determine if there is something you need to take action on and develop the willingness around taking action that might bring change. Today, as I want to move forward from this concept and think about an important potential barrier that might inhibit you from moving forward and taking steps, whether it be on behalf of your own thriving or the expansion of your ministry or moving into responding to some justice issue. And I'm going to talk today about one of the tools that we have found really crucial through our programming for those who are involved. And that is the development of the practice of self compassion. Now, work around self compassion has been done by many people more recently. Specifically, I would refer you to the work of Kristen Neff if you are more interested in more work in this area. Now, many times, I think, as Catholics and as Christians, we might look at the Great Commandment and think of the Great Commandment to love the Lord your God with your whole mind and soul and strength and spirit. And we do hold that in many ways as a higher commandment than what Jesus designates is really to follow and companion this commandment. And that is the commandment to love one's neighbors as oneself. Now, I would say as a Catholic, I was raised with what I now see sort of a faulty interpretation of this second commandment. I have this really vivid memory of being in Catholic school in third grade, and my teacher wrote the word joy on the board, on the chalkboard. And she said, "This is the word I always want you to think about when you think about this commandment. And the joy will give you the acronym of the order in which you are supposed to love. And that is Jesus, others, and then yourself." And I would say that for most of my life, this really worked for me. But I think I've gotten to a point where I realize that what can happen is that if we don't have a deeper sense of love and self-compassion, then how do we really express and show that compassion for others? And I think that mutuality in the second, half of the Great Commandment needs to be developed. And so I've turned to Krista Neff and her work on self-compassion to help us think about how do we become more compassionate with ourselves? How do we bring that sense of being moved to suffer with in terms of our own being? And so she defines three areas that are essential to self compassion. One of the requirements is self kindness. Many of you might have your own inner critic, maybe a very severe internal judge that, potentially stops you from taking action when you could. It probably works as a saboteur in your own head. It drives you down. It sucks out your energy. It takes out your spirit and it destroys your creativity. And so when we counter this inner critic with self-compassion and self-kindness, we think about how we would talk to another friend. How would you talk to someone if you were dealing with those problems in a ministerial context? What love and presence and attention would you bring to that? And work toward bringing that to yourself. Work about thinking about your own language. And this brings me to the second element, which is mindfulness. Now, there's been a lot of work done on mindfulness recently, and it's not only in ministerial context, but it's moving into health contexts and psychological contexts all across the board. But it takes mindfulness to just even notice what you're thinking. It takes awareness to first see and allow those thoughts and those feelings that might be a little bit uncomfortable. There might be hampering us in our development. So try to bring mindfulness into it. And then finally, the last element is recalling our common humanity. We do this as we build the Christian body together. We're not in this alone. We share our struggles with each other. We find the supports that we need to get through the things that we need to go through. So I just really ask you to think about these elements of self-kindness and mindfulness and common humanity, and think about how they can help you explore more and more during this very difficult time, how it might support your thriving. You know, we consider even the importance of forgiveness in Christian life and the call to forgive 70 times 7. You know, there are contexts where we have to do that for people in our lives on an ongoing basis. And it's not easy and it's hard. And maybe there are areas of our life where we have to do that for ourselves. So I just invite you to maybe explore the research around self-compassion a little bit more. Think about how maybe you see it intersecting with the gospel and Jesus' message of, really just wanting the fullness of human life and calling us his friends and companions. This piece really, I think, ties into thriving too, because if we think about Irenaeus of Lyon's statement that the glory of God is the human person fully alive, are we fully alive without this sense of love for ourselves? And how would we really carry it to others? So I hope that this piece can be helpful for you on your journey to thriving at a time when we are facing so many challenges. And just bring your mindfulness to this, your attention to this, and your own inner voice, and try to make some shifts and consider how just being gentle with yourself and forgiving of yourself can help you become even more creative, even more active, and even more responsive in your professional life in terms of your ministerial work. Thanks for listening.